Now, across the BBC, it's the day when thousands of young people get behind the microphone or in front of the camera for BBC School Report. The focus of this year's project is helping young people to identify real news and filter out so-called fake news. Well, let's go up onto the balcony now. Noel Phillips has been meeting some of the young people visiting us here at the BBC and joins us, as you can see now. And I'm in the background. If I go like that, there I am.
Simon, give us a wave. Hello.
There you go. Look at that.
Hey, look at that.
Marvellous.
2 arms.
Now we know where you are.
Too much fun down there, Simon. So that's right. We're inside the BBC's newsroom. This is where all the news happens. This is world news over here. We've got domestic news to your right. And these are the people who work very hard day in, day out to bring you news. And young people up and down the country have been doing their bit to generate some great stories, films and pieces of radio. Now, fake news was one of the most talked about subjects last year. So in a sense, we have a responsibility to ensure young people have the skills to be able to know stories that are real and stories that are not. So we've been swapping roles with these young people. We've been giving them a taste of what it's like to be a BBC journalist, and man, they've been enjoying it. Now, one of the big issues, as I've said, is fake news. And my colleague Chris Morris from the BBC's Reality Check team has been in Nottingham with some young people, speaking to them about a subject that is very close to their hearts.
For anyone involved with schools, it's the big question. How much time should be spent on homework?
OK, so you know the homework deadline, so I don't want to see anything late. OK, off you go.
At Sutton Community Academy, like in every other school, they're trying to get the balance right. So what do the school reporters here think?
Do you think homework will help you academically?
Yes, because if you know what you're doing for your homework, then you'll know what to do in next lesson.
Do you think you get too much homework?
Yes, sometimes. In subjects like art, I think that the homework that we get will not be useful.
Well, Reality Check and School Report have teamed up to look at the evidence. And, no surprise, a big report for the Department for Education says Year 9 pupils averaging 2 to 3 hours homework on a weeknight are almost 10 times more likely to end up with 5 good GCSEs than those that do no homework at all. But how much is too much? Do you get too much homework? What do you think?
If you get too much and you have to get it done really quickly, but you still got to do stuff around the house, it can be really stressful because you get so much and it can be difficult, but it's also helping you.
Schools in this country are now given flexibility in setting homework levels. But how do we compare with other education systems around the world? In China, pupils are given the most amount of homework and are amongst the highest achievers academically. But in Italy, despite also ranking among the highest in handing out homework, results really aren't that good. While in Finland, testing and homework are minimised compared to UK schools to allow for more extracurricular activities. And the Finns have one of the most successful education systems in the world. A lot of it comes down to individual situations. When it comes to homework, what can each pupil cope with? If you pile on the pressure, and when you take into account different schools and different home lives, it can easily become too much, counterproductive. Our conclusion, homework is important, it does make a difference, but there comes a point where handing out more and more won't deliver better results. In other words, the work-life balance is a big factor in schools too.
This is Sutton Community Academy
And Chris Morris,
reporting for
BBC News School Report.
Thanks so much to Chris Morris there, and I'm now joined by some young people from Coventry. They've come all the way from Whitley Academy. We've got Melissa, Omaniga and John. Thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure, thank you.
Yes. Listen, fake news, a year ago, we hardly, sort of used the phrase. Now it's everywhere, it's dominating our lives. What do you think about it, Melissa?
I feel like as a young people generations, we have so much social media, the fact that we're a lot more exposed to it. And I feel like social media, as well as ourselves, we need to know how to spot fake news in order to then tailor it to get it sort of out of our social media feeds.
You sound so clever, like a scientist. I want to ask you, Omaniga, do you trust the things you read on social media?
I don't always trust the things I read on social media because sometimes it also seems too good to be true. And some people post some things just to make a joke out of it, and some people actually take it seriously and start spreading it as if it's real news. But I think that's one of the main reasons why I don't actually believe in all the things that I see in social media.
And that's why the BBC has launched this new game. It's called iReporter, and it allows you guys to be actual BBC journalists and see the process that we have to go through when it comes to getting a story on the TV or on the radio or online, and the checks that we have to make. Tell our viewers a little bit about the game, John.
Okay, so the game is all about picking out which is fake news and which is real news, and it kind of gives you the insight of what it's actually like to be an actual reporter inside the BBC. And along the way you get messages, emails and video calls from different acquaintances and people through the way. And I feel like it's a great game for people that don't know much about fake news, and it kind of will show a bit of insight to people that are quite gullible and maybe, like, in a sense that it helps them. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, John. And listen, before we hand back to Simon, I think it's only right that we try and spread a bit of wisdom, try and tell people the number one thing they should look out for when they're online in order to avoid reposting or tweeting about fake news.
I think always make sure whatever news you are liking or sharing, check to see if it's fake first, because then that is what is feeding back in your feed at the end of the day.
Even if it is real, don't always spread it, because not everybody actually wants to hear some sort of news.
And if you are thinking it might be real news, go and check on BBC website to make sure that it is real.
What I love about you guys is the trust that you have in the BBC, and we, absolutely adore that trust, and we don't never take it for granted. And that's what today is all about, giving young people the opportunity to be real-life journalists and to understand the procedures and the editorial, procedures that we go through when it comes to getting a story on air. And you can find out much, much more about School Report and find out what's been happening in your area. Where should people go, guys?
bbc.co.uk/student report.
A little bit out of tune, but that was good. That was good. Thank you so much. Simon, back to you.
Noel, it's good that we young ones stick together. Thank you very much.